Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I would start and attempt to repair this little funny shaped rust hole here in this fender. I'll give you a quick story about this car. When I bought it, this had a little bit of filler and stuff, and started to break out after a year or two. And then, as I said in my other video over on the headlight there, I don't think I'll get to that one today, but that had filler on the top, in the typical area where they rust out. And then a deer jumped out in front of me, and I didn't kill him or anything. I think I just clipped him, but it was enough to knock that filler chunk out, and so there's a big rusty ugly hole on the side. And I scored a couple of fenders at a pick and pull for like $45 a piece, which was a pretty good deal, and they're really nice shape. And years ago I stripped them down when paint stripper was decent, and they stripped up beautiful. I painted them and they're in my shed. And anyway, I got to thinking, got my welder, as you know, and I thought, you know what, it's a lot of work to pull these fenders off, bolt them on and get them all lined up right. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna fix the ones on here and then sort of blend and paint them into the car, because like I say, this isn't going to be any kind of show car. I want it nice, but I thought it would be a bit more practical just to repair this area. We want to get metal back in there. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to start disassembling this area and see what we can achieve. We'll just cut a little patch in there. Get a scraper underneath here, gently, get some leverage on it. There we go, a little tap. Don't want to bend the trim, that's for sure. Then we'll work our way along. There's another one just there. I'll just work my way along there. Some of you may be thinking, why don't you just bolt on the other fenders? And yeah, that's true. I could bolt those on, but there's something in me kind of likes the idea of saving this one. It's all bolted on there, it's all tight, and it's going to make it a lot easier, I think. So, and if I screw it up, we've got another fender to deal with, haven't we? We've got another one to put in. Slotted screw on here. Unbolt these from behind. I think there's two of them. Got the little side marker off. Now, next thing to do is to clean this area up and see what we're dealing with. See how far the rust goes. Well, just as expected, it's more than just this area. It's kind of come down underneath and wicked underneath that trim. So what I'm planning, because we see this dark patch here, going to replace all that, but instead of doing a patch that stops here, I'm thinking of carrying the patch on to these edges here, you see, because then we can hide our seam line in this natural edge. So instead of dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, we're dealing with 1, 2, and then this side blends into this edge, and this is going to be a lot easier, I think, to get clean and make look good. That's what I'm thinking anyway, first bat. So I'm going to try and get in underneath with well, probably my wire brush attachment to try and clean the back metal there. It actually does go into part of the body line where it starts to raise up for this trim, so that is going to be a little tricky to kind of, we'll just have to play around with the hammer and with our new patch and see what we can come up with. That's the wheel off. We've got axle stands under there, make it safe, and then hopefully, yeah, we should be able to get a wire brush attachment into there to clean up all this stuff behind the weld to give us the best chance possible for a good weld. So let's try and get that in there. Remove the worst of it with a manual brush. Get up there, because obviously you've got your light pod right behind there. Those of you guys that have these cars in really salty road areas, this is a job for you to do, is to clean out all around this light pod. Get all that. I'll point the camera down in a sec and you'll see how much crap accumulates. And you can imagine the moisture and the salt just holding right up there. Especially back in, like, say, England. Can't imagine, if you don't do this, they're not going to last long. You can see all the crap that's come out at the bottom there just for 30 seconds or so of just cleaning that. So yeah, needle sander, because it's going to be able to reach in right into the corner, and better than the little angled grinder. So let's see how this works. Right, so what we got, 4x3 inch piece of steel here. So obviously the body of the car rolls this way, and this is a flat piece of steel. So first of all, I'm going to try and get that slight curvature on it. And I've got my trusty piece of railroad track down here. So let's just put a little curve into this guy. Actually, I might be able to do it just by hand over this track here without using the hammer, because we are dealing with just 18 gauge. Just with a little gentle bend in there, we're able to get, this way around, pretty much close. We can still flex it just a little bit, get that radius just right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and see if we can replicate this little crease here. Make sure we're covering all our rusty area. So let me make a couple of marks here. So we go back to the same area. So this is going to be cut off here. So I'm just using some regular shears. Okay, so off camera, I just cut that with some shears. That could be tidied up a little bit in that corner there, but that tells us where we're going to put that little crease in. Okay, so here we go. I've marked where those creases are and where they roughly end, where it kind of dives in, and I'm just going to play around with it on this sharper radius on this railroad track to try and replicate this little crease here. It's a very gentle, it's just a little tiny bit at the end, so I'm going to work my way along and see what we, this is kind of just trial and error really. The bottom one is barely there at all, so let's see what we can come up with, shall we? That's very close actually, very light tapping. If you can see in the camera there, I don't know whether you can see that, it's just a slight little crease there. Now I'll work it a little, define it a little bit more, and then it kind of feathers away. I mean, approximately the trim hole is around here, okay, and then obviously our trim dies to around here, so we've just got a little radius here and barely anything here, so I'm going to do just a little smidge here, and then I think we're good to go. Okay, hopefully you can see that from there. So there's our patch, you see, and we've got our defining point here where the trim dies away to nothing. Let me hold that there, and then we've got that little bump there and a less of a bump here, and we've got a curve this way, but also we've got a slight curve this way where it dives into the headlight. So I'm just gonna, and the patch will tell you, see, you can see it's rocking and rolling that way, so obviously we're going to have to bend it slightly this way which I can do on my trusty railroad track, and also a little bit by hand as well. Yeah, I think that's pretty darn good. So I'm going to clean this little corner edge up here with the grinder, or my little flat wheel, and then we'll mark this guy out. So you always want to make your patch and then offer it up. You don't want to go cutting this all out. Well, you could, I guess, cut this out to get it out of the way, but there's no real point. You don't want to lose any of your detail marks. You know, this is still telling us what we need, you see. You see it kind of goes straight and then bounces up, goes straight and then bounces down again. So once we weld it in, we can play with it as well, you know. Under seal here, which we can clean out, and I will clean out more of that under seal at the back there, and then just refine this patch, get it real tuned up so we got a nice even gap. Let me turn that off. Even gap all the way round. There you go. You can see the curvature of the patch, not properly fitted yet, it's a little high there, but and also I think you can see where it dives into that bit of trim there. So yeah, that should go in quite nicely. I'm glad I did this hidden edge here. We can make that and blend that into that factory edge real nice. So I am just going to futz around. I don't need to film it, but I'm going to futz around getting this trim to fit and cleaning the back, and then we'll weld that sucker in there. There you go. We've got a lot of pitting at the back there. You can see that. So I'm glad we cut all that out. And I will treat all the back with a, you know, a rust encapsulator or a sealer or something at the back. Ground it up, you know, it didn't need a lot of grinding actually, just a little smidge off here and there just to get it all level. It's all pretty nice and level. Can do some adjustments as I weld it in. I've cleaned, obviously with the patch out you can clean in behind a little better as well. So I'm going to take this off again and make sure that we're all perfectly as clean as possible on the back of the ears, and then I'll run a few tacks and start welding this sucker in there. Okay, there you go. So you can see, try and give you an angle here, you can see the way the body curves, and it's following the curve nicely here. This will weld up really nice, that, and I can blend that kind of slightly rounded factory edge there. And then it saves us having another join right out in the middle of nowhere, you see. So I'll make sure that's positioned just perfect. That's a little proud there. That's got to go. See, I've got to put a little, oh, there we go. That's it. That's got to be bent in there. I can do that as we weld. As I say, we'll check for flashness, spot, flashness, spot, here and there, and we'll get that in there. Right, I had to cut this back again because of heat and everything. It was getting a little distorted here, so I cut below the tacks here, and then I'm going to work my way gently and making sure that we're not out of alignment. So just take your time. If you have to cut again, that's not a big deal. It takes a second with that little saw. So I'm just working my way here. I had to cut these two to try and define this line here. I really want to make sure that's correct, because that is visible above the trim. Okay, so I've welded that up. There's probably a few little areas I may have missed, but I'm going to grind the tops off, and I've got a light behind here to give me an indicator of where little pinholes I may have missed, but I want to get those down so make it a little easier to see them. Just go with a little spray of a little guide coat here. let's just take the nibs down and see where we're at. Oh, I hope you can see that. I've been trying to knock down these welds, smooth them out, and then I'm going back and just picking out little tiny pinholes. And I'm just going to knock these down, and this one's still a bit high. I've just got to blend that in. I've got a tiny little bit of a low spot here, but that might be exaggerated because of that weld is still showing. So let's see what we can do to make that look better. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm trying to shape this edge here and get this a nice crisp. I'll hold the heads around to check it. But what you want to do, you want to take the welds off this side, that side, then round it. And if you look closely, there's just a slight pinhole right there. We can get that. I'll just tack the little pinhole up, and then a tiny minute one just there. I've got to do a little bit more dressing at the bottom here. Feather that out. This join's pretty good, and then all up here is pretty decent, and it feels good. There's no real big deviation anywhere, and obviously with a little contouring filler and skimming it and blocking it, that should disappear nicely. Alright, so let's try and close those final little pinholes up, dress this, and then condition it, and then we should be good. And I'll stick some primer on it just to hold it before I get time to paint it, you know. I think that is it, just those little specks, and I'll come in close and I'll show you after I dress them. Okay, you can see the edges. The little pinhole was about here, so that's gone. Edge looks pretty good. So I want to dress this up a little bit. It's a slight low spot here, but we're going to have to skim that with some contouring filler. But the rest of it's come out pretty nice. Let me just condition that, and then we're done. Okay, there it all is, all sanded up. We've got a pretty decent consistent line here. I've just mounted the frame. I put the headlight back in. That lines up pretty nicely. I'm just going to degrease everything now and give it a coat of some edge primer so it doesn't flash rust till the time I can get around to just putting some paint on it. So there you go. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching today. I made a nice little kind of practice run for future bodywork on the 6.3. Luckily I don't have a lot of exterior bodywork to do on the 6.3. There's the lower passenger quarter panel at the back there, very low down, and at the back driver side as well there's a little bit, but the rest of it is all interior, you know, floor pans and rockers and framework hidden away. And some of it's even 16 gauge, not 18 gauge steel like this is. But it's made for a fun little kind of practice run on some thinner 18 gauge. So yeah, it came out okay. So I will see you in the next video. Next video, I think I got some blue chromate through the mail yesterday, so I'm going to look at blue chromating some door latches and things like that, see how they come out. I mean, all that's future stuff, but it's kind of fun to do. And yeah, we'll just be pressing on. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and hit like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.